Trey Gowdy has been saying that President Trump would be acquitted in the United States Senate, and that appears to have happened. The final vote to decide all of this will be Wednesday, as the push for witnesses ultimately failed, with only 2 Republicans ultimately pushing for that. That was too shy of what they would need. So where do we go from here, Trey Gowdy, on all of that? Trey, always good to have you. What do you think the lasting effect will be? Republicans have argued it was, politically one-sided in the House. Democrats are arguing that it was all politically one-sided in the Senate, and that's that. What do you think?
I think my fellow citizens have a remarkable way of moving on, and I think ordinary average citizens are much more united than the politics and the media would reflect. I'm sure they'll be reminded, Republicans are going to talk about the investigation and the way Schiff handled it, and then Democrats are going to talk about the denial of witnesses. I think the results are fairly well baked in. I'm not aware of anyone who's changed their mind over the last 3-4 months, and I don't think that's going to change going into November.
What are your thoughts on Mitt Romney? Some have said he is now kryptonite to the party. He's been disinvited to CPAC as a result of his push for witnesses. I don't know if Susan Collins of Maine has been similarly treated that way. What do you think of that?
Well, I appreciate what Mike Lee did yesterday. That took a lot of courage to stand up for someone who's in the middle of getting the Hades beaten out of them. I have not discussed with Senator Romney his thought process. Utah is very different from Maine. It's very different from Cory Gardner's situation. There would be no political blowback had he voted differently. What I'm really grateful for is Lisa Murkowski, because had she voted the other way, then Cory Gardner and Tom Tillis and Joni Ernst and Martha McSally all would have cast the vote that denied witnesses, and that would have hurt them in November. So the Republican Party is not big enough for us to fight with each other. We got to fight the Democrats. We got to fight Politico and the New York Times. We don't have enough troops to fight each other. So I'm disappointed in Senator Romney, but I would give him a chance to explain to me what his thought process was.
Well, we do know enough about his position that he just wanted to hear from these folks, notably John Bolton, and aggressively question them. That wouldn't be necessarily that he would vote to convict the president, but that it would be an opportunity for senators to clearly go after this charge that the president had this arrangement with the Ukrainian leader. And this might have provided that kind of cover that we'll never know now. What do you think?
Right. And my response would be, why stop there? If Bolton had a conversation that was also overheard by Mulvaney and Pompeo, do you not also want to talk to Mulvaney and Pompeo? Because maybe Bolton got the conversation wrong, wittingly or unwittingly. So you can't just say, I want one relevant witness, but I don't want any of the others. I mean, if Romney's position had been, I want 4 witnesses on each side, I think Republicans would be able to accept that a little more. But taking the bait on Bolton, but not taking the bait on Hunter Biden, I think is what has Republicans vexed. But in fairness to him, I would give him an opportunity to say, this is why I did what I did. Sometimes you disagree with someone, but you still respect the process. I don't know his thought process.
Do you think that John Bolton, I think one of your colleagues had said, the guy's a snake. He has turned on the president. He can't be trusted. This is the guy who wasn't too long ago a conservative icon.
Yeah, I'm not into that. It's really hard for me to rationalize someone being a good guy for 12 years and then all of a sudden everybody turning on him. The tool that we have in our culture, Neil, to elucidate the truth is examination and cross-examination. So what Adam Schiff should have done is what he made Republicans do the 8 years I was there. Go to court to enforce your subpoena. Let Bolton be examined, and more importantly, let him be cross-examined. That's the way investigations should work. But because somebody simply says something I disagree with does not make them a snake. It does not make them a liar. It does provide me some ammunition for cross-examination, ideally, but it doesn't mean that person is all of a sudden terrible just because they said something I disagree with.
Well, I've got you here, Trey, if you'll indulge me. I mean, you might have caught a column by Rahm Emanuel in today's Wall Street Journal bemoaning the fact that Democrats are going so hard left with the emergence of Bernie Sanders, who could win this state, could pick up New Hampshire as well, and be well on his way to the nomination, that he is almost, I'm paraphrasing here, this is not exactly what he said, he's almost guaranteeing defeat for Democrats. Others come around and say, well, you know, his base is very, very strong. They'll get out the vote, and that will make up for any of the concerns that he's too left-wing. What do you make of this family food fight within the Democratic Party?
It's very reminiscent of what Republicans went through. Remember, we nominated McCain and Romney because we believed them to be more electable. And then when President Trump was beginning to emerge in 2016, the narrative was, well, you can't possibly nominate him. He cannot win in November. Let's go with Marco or Cruz or someone who's electable.
Very good point.
Our base rejected that, and I think the Democrats are saying we'd rather go with someone we believe in than fall for this electability argument that has not succeeded in the past.
Well said. Trey, I always learn a lot. Thank you very much for joining us.